The very bottom of Tzadi Dalid Amud Beis. Excuse me just for a moment. Hello? Yes. No, I'm here in America, about to give a share. Yes, Hashem, like a V. It's like a boat that moves quickly on the waves, and so it really looks like a V. So now the Gemara says, we're at the top of Tzadi Hey Amud Aleph. Meisvel challenge you. We learned a brisa discussing the molds. We said yesterday that there were 3 times that the dough would be put into a mold, into a certain shaped pan. When it was dough, it would be put into this shaped pan. Then it would put into another shaped pan in another such pan in the oven, and then when it comes out of the oven, again it's put into a pan like that so that it maintains its shape. So here it says, we'll see. There'll be a discussion about that. So it says the Gemara, this in the Brisa, Kimin Kaveres Hayala Betanur. It was sort of the pan, the specially shaped pan that there was for the dough, for the bread, was like a kaveres. A kaveres is a beehive. And there are a lot of holes in the pan. V'doma k'mintavel merubas. And what was its shape? Like a squared box. So that seems to be a proof that the shape of the lechem hapanim is not a skipper boat, but a U. It's like a box. So isn't that a problem with the view of Rabbi Yochanan, who says it's like a skipper boat? And so the Gemara, according to Rabbi Yochanan, we have to change the brisa. Upia doma k'mintavel merubas. There was a pan, and the top of the pan was like a squared box. In other words, the bottom was, a V, but the top was like a box. So there was a difference between them. Tanya, now, says the Gemara, now we have a brisa like Rabbi Yochanan. Tanya, you have a brisa, Kamandam K'mitzvina Rokedes, who says it was like a V, who says it was like a boat. The Tanya, because we went in a brisa. Arba Snifin Shel Zav Hayusham. There were 4, little things of gold. Mefutzalin Meroshehen Kimin Dakran Hayu. And they were separated at their tops, like these little, thorns, little branches. Shesomchen b'henes halechem, and with that they would support the bread. And now, what does the bread look like? Shehudom ekmin sfina dolekes, and the bread looks like a boat that's very fast, a boat that's rushing over the waves. So that's explicit that the bread is like a V, like a boat.
Okay. But these are props for sneaking. That's like a grate they put it on. Is that they're saying they put it on a grate?
I don't think so. The way I understood the sneefing was that these are things to make the edges. That at the edges of the loaf there were like 4 corners, like on the mizbeach you had 4
and they're placed on top of these things, or
no? These metal pieces of gold were there to cause the dough to stick up and to be a corner. That's the way I understood it. Maybe how did they translate?
No, I was just curious. They translate as props. I just didn't know what
does the art scroll say? They say there were 4
there were 4 props of gold there.
I think it's the 4 golden pieces to make out of the corners of the bread sort of very distinct corners. But nevertheless, beneath that, it was a V. I think that's what the price is saying.
So the shape of it is rectangular.
It's an argument.
It's an argument.
That's
but if you're talking about 4 corners, now it's rectangular.
The top can have corners, but the bottom could be slanted.
It wasn't rectangular and then they folded it like that?
There are different opinions here. We're saying that there's the argument of Chanina and Rabbi Yochanan. Chanina says it was like a box like this.
Right.
Rabbi Yochanan says at the bottom it was like this. But what I think this price is saying is that there were 4 corners over here made by golden pieces that would push up the dough to make them into corners when they were baked in the oven.
Don't we have eyewitnesses to tell us what it was?
No, I don't think so. These are Amoraim. They're living, in the year 350 or so. Beis Hamikdash was destroyed in the year 70. So Rabbi Yochanan is living 280 years after the Beis Hamikdash. I don't think he had any eyewitnesses anymore. Apparently they didn't have pictures. Yeah. So this is, I guess sort of a broader question. There is a group in Israel, they call themselves Machon HaMikdash, the Temple Institute, and they are trying to make the vessels of the temple, and they're trying to, they built a beautiful menorah. As you go down to the Kotel, you see this golden menorah, and they have a Mizbeach. So I guess
preparation or just for
so they're saying preparing that they would like it to be used in the Beis Hamikdash, right?
Why wait?
But I think one of the big problems is that we see clearly in the Gemara that there were a lot of questions that were not resolved. So this is not resolved. So they'll say, well, let's look at the Rambam and let's look at the sources, and if it's totally not resolved, maybe we can resolve it. And there are others who'll say, sort of like what Jason was saying, there must have been eyewitnesses. Maybe these are all questions you're supposed to wait for Eliyahu Hanavi, who was an eyewitness, to come and for him to resolve it. But that's a question. Okay, we are now on Sadi Hamad Aleph, some more issues about the Lechem HaPanim. Remember that when we have a general rule that Yotze, something which was made holy, as Roger pointed out, if it was put into a vessel, a holy vessel, which becomes intrinsically holy, once there's a holiness inside of it, it can't exit the Azara, it can't exit the courtyard of the temple. If it leaves the courtyard, it becomes disqualified as Yotze. So think about the Mishkan in the days of the Mishkan when we were in the desert. So you had the Mishkan standing, and when the Mishkan is standing, you have the bread on the bread of the Lechem HaPanim on the Shulchan. Maybe on a Monday or a Tuesday, the cloud sets off, and Hashem is showing it's time to take apart the Mishkan. So they take apart the Mishkan, they now start transporting it. Does all the Lechem become disqualified as Yotze? Because now as it's traveling, maybe it has left the Azara, so that would disqualify it as Yotze, or maybe not. Maybe we'll say that when God says to travel, so that's as if the Mishkan also is traveling along with it, and then it's as if it's still in the Azara. And maybe you don't have the disqualification of Yotze. So that's the question. Yiboilu, that a question in the yeshiva. Lechem HaPanim, all these breads, the showbreads, the 2 stacks of 6 loaves on each side of the Shulchan, Nifsal b'masos, does it get disqualified through the Jews traveling? Oh, Eino Nifsal b'masos. So was it not disqualified when they travel? So Rashi says, when the Jews would travel in the desert and they take apart the Mishkan, they would carry the bread, they'd carry the table with the bread on it, as the verse says, Shulchan HaPanim Yifrusu Beged Cheles. Does this bread become disqualified for now having exited the Azara or not?
But I feel like we learned there's no pigel. There was no pigel in the desert because there was no you couldn't have.
Well, we didn't say that there was no pigel in the desert. We said there was no pigel in Bamos, private altars. But good, this is a good point, right? So again,
Rabbi, we know the architect who designed the Mishkan for Moshe. Yeah, right?
Yes.
Do we know the designer who brought up this bread, shape of this bread, shape of this has to be like that? It would have
been Hashem. It would have been a halacha l'Moshe Misinai, a tradition. It seems like it was a question what this tradition was. So again, you let a question in the yeshiva. Lechem HaPanim, the bread, nifsal b'masos, does it get disqualified when the Jews are traveling? Oh wait, no, nifsal b'masos, or is it not disqualified? So you're going to have an argument. Rabbi Yochanan versus Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Chad Amar nifsal, one says it does get disqualified. Chad Amar eno nifsal, the other one said it did not get disqualified. Mad Amar nifsal, the one who says it gets disqualified, because the verse says, Kasher yachnu ken yiso, as the Jews will camp, so they will travel. That means that when they're traveling, it's the same halachic status as when they are encamped. So well, certainly when they are encamped, so then you have the Mishkan, and if Lechem HaPanim are taken out of the Azara, they would become disqualified for having left the Azara. So when it's traveling, it also has the status of camp, and therefore Nifsal B'Yotze gets disqualified were it to go out. However, Ma'adam, the other opinion, who says, Eino Nifsal, that when the Mishkan is traveling and is taken apart and they're moving along, and they've covered the table with the 12 breads, and they're carrying the table with the 12 breads, it doesn't get disqualified. That's because the verse says, Lechem HaTamid Alav Yihiyeh, and the lechem, the lechem atamid will be on it. So since it's saying v'lechem atamid alav yihiyeh, and the bread of constancy, of being constant, shall be on it. In other words, it stays holy. It stays holy constantly. Even when you're moving with it, you're carrying it, it stays holy. Okay, so now what's each one going to do with the other one's possible? So if you're going to say that it does stay kosher, it doesn't get disqualified, either verse says, as they will camp, so they will travel. Doesn't that imply that just as when they are camped, there's an issue of things going out of the Azara, so too in traveling there would be a problem of things going out of Azara? No, he'll say no, there's a linkage between camp and travel, but the linkage goes in the other direction. Just like when it's encamped and it hasn't left its place. In other words, when the bread hasn't been moved off of the table, it's going to stay kosher, as if the table's in its place and the bread is in its place, it's kosher. So therefore, when traveling, so long as the bread hasn't left the table, lo mifsal, it doesn't become disqualified. So what's the other one going to do with the other pasuk? How could you say that it becomes disqualified once we're traveling and we're carrying the bread with the table? The verse says explicitly, constant bread will be on it. That sounds like the bread always stays holy. Ella, so that's a really good question. So rather we have to change what we've said. When Rav Dimi came from Bavel, he said like this. If the stacks of bread are still on the table and the table's being transported with the stacks of bread on them, there is no argument. Everybody agrees it stays kosher. It's not considered having exited its place. But where is there an argument? If the bread was taken off of the table. The one who believes it becomes possible, because the verse says, Kasher yachanu ken yisau, as they will camp, so they will travel. So just like when encamped, there's a disqualification once it leaves. So too when it travels, there's a disqualification once it leaves. And the one who says it doesn't get disqualified, because the verse says, "V'nasa ohel moed," and the tent of meeting shall travel. That's to say, afal pi shenasa, even though it's traveling, it's still ohel moed hu. It's still considered a tent of meeting. So even though it's taken off of the table and they're walking with it, since it's in the traveling, v'nasa, it's all considered one big ohel moed, and it's still kosher. As they will camp, so they will travel. So that's a hekesh, that's a linkage between the traveling and the camp. Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's not in the other.
Now what about the other opinion? But doesn't it say as they will camp, so they will travel? And do it in the other way. So just like when in camp, when you don't remove it, it doesn't get disqualified. So he'll say you do it in the other way. So too, when it's traveling, when you didn't remove it from the machna leviyah, even though you've removed it from the table, lo mifsal, it doesn't get disqualified. The other opinion as well, but it says that the Ohel Moed shall travel. Doesn't that imply that when you're traveling, there's a status of Ohel Moed to the entire Machna Leviyah? So Gemara says, no, that's not what it means to say. That's just to say which order of travel it is. So first the one flag, then the next flag, then the Ohel Moed travels, but not to say it has the status of Ohel Moed. The Idach and the other opinion, that he knows the order of the Degalim from the other pasuk. The pasuk says that the camp of Leviyah is in the middle of all the other camps. Okay, so this is the discussion. When the Jewish people are traveling in the desert, and if they were to take the breads off the lechem, off the shulchan, do the breads become pasul as yotzei, or maybe no? Maybe when they're traveling, and they're part of the Machna Leviyah, the whole Machna Leviyah is considered the Azara, and the breads do not have a psul of yotzei, even though they are off the table while traveling. Esvi, I'll challenge you. We learned a brisa. The brisa says, "B'shas siluk masos," at the time of traveling, when the parochas is rolled up, kadshim nifsalim biyotze. So now all the sacred items, the karbanos pieces, become disqualified for having left the azara. Now, even though there's no curtains because they're traveling, so the kachim are out of the azara, that area though still has a holiness. The whole machna levia, the whole camp of the Leviim, and therefore, zavin mitzorayim mishtalchin chutz l'mechitzasan. If a person was a zav, he had a discharge of gonorrhea, or a mitzora, he can't be with the machna levia, he can't be traveling with them, with the Leviim, he has to go to the back of the camp and walk outside of these areas. So here it says explicitly, kachim become disqualified with a psul yotze. So my lava fiu lechem apanim. So kachim sounds like even the lechem apanim. So that would be a disproof of the opinion that says that when traveling, the lechem apanim did not become disqualified. So when it says lo, that's not the way to read the brisa. Barmi lechem apanim, except for the lechem apanim. Lechem apanim doesn't get disqualified based on this pasuk of anasa oel moed. It's still considered oel moed even when it's traveling. Asks the Gemara, 1 second, manavshach. This whole law makes no sense. If you're going to say that it's considered an ohel moed, even though the curtains are rolled up, afilu kachim nami. Kachim also shouldn't be disqualified. Ohel moed lav dafkahu. If you're going to say that it's not considered ohel moed anymore, so if you lechem apanim nami, so then lechem apanim should be disqualified. Ela kiyasa Ravin, so therefore when Ravin came, Amar said the following. The Oel Moed, when it says Oel Moed, it doesn't mean that it's really Oel Moed. He said, Mar Amar b'Masudar, there was really no argument. When we say that if the Mishkan is taken down, and you're transporting the Shulchan, the Lechem Apanim are disqualified according to one. The Lechem Apanim are not disqualified according to the other. It's not an argument. The one who says it's not disqualified has been Masudar, and the Lechem Apanim are still on the table. When they're still on the table, it's not considered Yotze. It's not considered that it exited. Amar b'Masulak, the one who says that the Lechem Apanim are disqualified are when they are off the table. When they are off the table, then they are disqualified according to everyone. The low pligin, there's really no argument.
So anyhow, they had to make this every week, right, Rabbi, the bread, and also...
Yes, every Thursday they would make the bread, but they would put it onto the table on Shabbos.
On Shabbos.
Right, I didn't really answer the question. It's still the same issue. How can it be if there is an oil made or if it's not oil made? Meaning...
No, it's not Ohel Moed.
But nonetheless, because it's on a table...
That itself, right. On the table, though, is different. On the table, it's still in its place. What's Yotze? It left its place. It's still on its table.
And that bread...
The Ohel Moed around it was removed, but it's still in its place. It's still in a holy vessel.
That bread strictly was eaten by the Kohanim,
yeah.
right?
6 loaves by the 2 shifts of Kohanim, and the other 6 loaves by the Kohen Gadol.
But they had to finish all the bread, right?
Yeah.
What I don't understand, Aaron had 2 sons.
Yeah.
2 passed away, 2 alive.
Right.
How did they eat? Oh. Every
Well, there's
bread
not
they
so
had-
much bread, right? Each bread is an isaron,
So what is
5 pounds.
5. That's eating like one day.
Yeah, one day. 3
That's-
people.
Multiplied by 12.
3 people in one day have to eat 60 pounds of flour.
That's why they were Kohen Gadol.
For the kids too, though.
Other kids over time, but it's saying that initially it's just 3. That Aaron and Elazar and his
Because
son.
they had families and stuff.
That eventually, when you add 3, 4 kids, I don't know.
Right. Well, Moshe Rabbeinu could also eat.
The wife,
Status of Kohen Gadol.
And after that, all the kurbanot that are being brought
And they have to eat
also.
all the korbanos. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking a lot of bread and meat.
Come in,
there's a lot.
come in, come
The
in.
wives are not included, no
Sign me
Rabbi?
up.
The family?
It worked.
Amar Abaye. Abaye said, going back to this brisa that says that Kadshim get disqualified with Yotze once the Mishkan is taken down. Shmamina yeshtiluk masos balayla. you see that if the cloud would pick up and start moving during the night, they would travel during the night. They wouldn't wait till the morning. If you're going to say that they're not going to move during the night, so then when do they actually lift up the curtains and take down the Mishkan? L'tzaf in the morning. Then why are you saying that things are disqualified because they've gone out of the Azara? They become disqualified because they've been out for too long. They haven't been consumed during the night. They become nosar. So the Gemara says, okay, Shita, this is obvious. The verse says to travel by day and by night. So of course they traveled at night too. The Gemara says, no, Ma'oditim would have thought to say, maybe they would, if they set off by day, they would continue traveling during the night. I would have thought that if they didn't set off by day during the night, they would not set off and begin their travels. That's what Abai is saying, that he's proving from this discussion that they would sometimes set off and start their travels during the night. Okay. Or Minya, let me ask you another question. We learned Hugula Paroches, once all the curtains were rolled up and the Mishkan's being taken apart, Hutra Zavan HaMitzaran Likanis L'Sham. The Zavan and Mitzaran are allowed to enter there. And we said in the Brisa that Zavan and Mitzaran are not allowed to enter. Ravashi answered Lokash, it's not a contradiction. Rabbi Lezer Rabbanan. It's a machlokas. There's a machlokas amongst Tanaim between Rabbi Lezer and the Rabbanan. Tanya, as we learned in a Brisa. And the Gemara is going to say, we're talking about a case of Karban Pesach when most of the people are Tamei. So we know that when most of the people are Tamei, then you can still bring the Karban Pesach, but you couldn't, as a Zav or a Metzora, walk into the Beis HaMikdash when most of the people are Tamei. Rabbi Lezer says, Yachol. So Rabbi Lezer says that when the Tmei Meis are allowed to walk into the Azara, then Zavan and Mitzaran are also allowed in. That when most of the nation are Tamei Meis, then Zavan and Mitzaran also can come in too. Once Tumah's been allowed in, other Tumahs will also be allowed in. So if he says that about Tamei Meis, so then he's going to say here also, once they roll up the Paroches, then the Tamei Meis is allowed to walk in. And since the Tamei Meis is allowed to walk in to the Machna Leviyah, he would hold, since he holds a Tamei Meis can be, we all hold that a Tamei Meis can be in a Machna Leviyah, and he holds that wherever a Tamei Meis can be, a Zav and Mitzorah can be, so he would hold that a Zav and Mitzorah could also come in. Therefore, as Rabbi Lezer says, Yachol dachku Zav and Mitzorah v'nichnasu lazar b'pesach haba b'tumah. Maybe you would say that when Zavan and Mitzaran push their way into an Azara on Pesach, which is being brought in the state of Tumah, Yahu Yuchayav, maybe they'd be Chayav Tamalam. That's what it says. Vishalchum and they should send from the camp. Chol Tzarua v'chol Zav v'chol Tamei Nefesh. Any Tzarua and Zav and any Tamei Meis. B'shal Tamei Meis Mishtalch. When Tamei Meis are sent out, Zavan and Mitzaran Mishtalch. That's when the Zavan and Mitzaran are sent out. Ain't Tamei Meis Mishtalch when the Tamei Meis are not sent out. Ain't Zavan and Mitzaran Mishtalch, and then the Zavan and Mitzaran or also not sent out. So as Rashi explains, Pesach Haba B'Tumah could go in Shirov Tzibur Tmeim. Let's say most of the community would be Tamei. Kidamar, as the Gemara says in Pesachim. Ish Nitchel Pesach Sheni. If one person is Tamei, he's pushed off to Pesach Sheni. V'lo Tzibur. But if the community is Tamei, then they're not pushed off to Pesach Sheni. They bring it on Pesach Rishon. But Tumas Meis, Tumas Meis becomes permitted to them. It says Tamei Nefesh. But Zav and Tzoras does not become permitted when they're Tamei. However, Rebbe Lezer, the Mekel Hasam, Rebbe Lezer over there is Mekel. So the same way as Mekel over there, Mekel Hacha, he's also lenient here. Here, once you take down the Mishkan, the Tmei Meis are not sent out. The Tamei Meis no Asar L'Bazar B'Lvat. The Tamei Meis is only not allowed to be in the Azara itself. He could be in Machna Leviyah. Actually, can be on Harabais. Now that the Paroches is rolled up, now there's no status of Azara anywhere that the Tamei Meis has to be sent out of it. The Tamei Meis Mutzulikan is Machna Leviyah. Tamei Meis can be in Machna Leviyah. That's it says Vayikach Moshe Atmos Yosef Imo b'Mechitzasa. Moshe Rabbeinu in the camp of the Levium carried with him the bones of Yosef. You also see from here that the bones of Yosef create tumah, and not like some who want to say that the bones of tzaddikim don't create tumah. So long as he doesn't go into the azara with the bones. Hainu azar, that's the azar. This is the Rabbanan Amr who say afpisha tmei mesim ein mishtalchin, even when tmei mesim are allowed in, zavim mitzoran mishtalchin, the zavim mitzoran are not allowed in. So that can resolve the two brisos. So the one brisa that said that once the azara, once it's all taken down, all the zavim mitzoran can go there. That's like the view of Rabbi Lezer. That once the azara is taken down, so now Tmei Mesim can be there, Tmei Mesim can be there, Zavan and Mitzaron can be there. But the other Bryce that said that Zavan and Mitzaron could not be there, that's the view of the Rabbanan. Even if Tmei Mesim can be somewhere, that doesn't mean that Zavan and Mitzaron can be there. And therefore, when the Mishkan is taken down, the Zavan and Mitzaron are still not allowed to be in the space where the Mishkan was.
So Rabbi, those guys, they carried Yosef's bones.
Yeah.
They were in charge. They were always tameh.
They became tameh, exactly. Okay, some more laws about the lechem apanim. Achas shtei lechem, both the two breads that are brought on Shavuos, achas lechem apanim, and the bread of the lechem apanim, lishasan v'arichasan bachutz. They get kneaded, they get prepared as a loaf outside of the azara. V'afiyasan b'fnim, but they get baked inside the Beis Hamikdash. And the baking does not take place on Shabbos, it takes place before. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol Masayim Bifnim. Everything for them was done in the Azara. Rabbi Shimon says, Lo Olam Hevi Ragi Lomar. Shtei Alechem Lechem Apanim Ksheres Ba'azara, Ksheres B'Beis Hagi. So Rabbi Shimon says, you should always realize that the Shtei Alechem and Lechem Apanim would be kosher to be made in the Beis Hamikdash, but they'd be kosher to be made outside the Beis Hamikdash. Beis Pagi was a bakery, as we said. It was even outside the wall of Yerushalayim. It could be made anywhere. Not outside of Yerushalayim, outside the wall of the Har HaBayis, anywhere in Yerushalayim. So now the Gemara says, Hagufa Kasha, the Mishnah itself is a contradiction. Amarti, we said, Lishasim Arichasim Bachutz, that they could be kneaded and they could be prepared as loaves outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So now this addresses Roger's question. Roger asked, are the molds holy? So 1 second, if they're kneading the dough and then putting it into a mold outside the Beis Hamikdash, it can't be holy. Because if it's outside the Beis Hamikdash, we have this whole problem of Yotze. It was taken out.
Why can't they knead it and put it inside?
No, because they make the shape of the loaf. So the shape of the loaf is to be in the mold. So 1 second, Amrit, you said Lishasan, they're kneading varichas and preparing the loaves as bachutzes outside. So that means that the various measuring utensils for dry are not holy, right? Because to make a loaf, they have to measure an isar and a flour. That means that the measuring cup of the isar is not holy, because if it'd be holy, it would be disqualified as yotze, as being outside. But then, afiyasam bifnim, you say you're baking them inside. Alma, that means midas yavish neskadsha. That means that the dry measuring cups are holy for the baking. So Amar Rabba said, Hiksha Adam Kasha. This is a question. A tough man asked this question. Shu Kasha Kabar is hard, he's tough as iron. Umanu Reb Sheshis. This is Reb Sheshis. He's the one who asked this difficult question. Says the Gemara, my Kasha, what's the big question? What's the big question? Dilmi Isaran lo Mikadish. Maybe the measuring cup of an Isaran is not holy. And Tanar Mikadish. But the utensil of the oven, that is holy. So the oven is holy, but the measuring cup's not holy. So the measuring cup, when they make the dough, it's not holy yet. Then when they put this dough into an oven, the oven is holy. So that's what makes it holy.
But where would they measure in that scenario? They measure in the Beis Hamikdash with the...
They don't need to measure anymore. Now it already was measured.
What I'm saying, if they, in that scenario, they would measure in the Beis Hamikdash or they would measure outside the Beis Hamikdash?
No, I measured outside the Beis Hamikdash.
Outside, I think, no.
Measured would be outside the Beis Hamikdash, and then it's put into an oven, which is holy in the Beis Hamikdash.
Wasn't there a specific measuring cup we learned about?
Yeah, we spoke about that.
So you're saying maybe you don't really need that measuring cup?
You don't need that one. You can use a different one, maybe, or maybe that one wasn't even holy. Eli kasha is okay. If there's a question, this is the question. Ha kasha. It said in the Mishnah that they are baked inside the Beis Hamikdash. Amal Taner Mekadesh. That means that the oven is holy. It makes it holy. Ein dochos es HaShabbos. But then you said that you don't overrule Shabbos to bake them. That means when do you bake them? Before Shabbos. Okay, Thursday or Friday. 1 second. If Salubelina should be disqualified with the fact that it spent too much time outside of the Shulchan. It's only going on to the Shulchan Shabbos by day. So the night should have disqualified it because it's already a holy thing. Amar Rava, so Rava said, Hiksha Adam Kasha Shu Kasha Kabarza. A question here, we've got a good question here, from a tough question from a tough man. Umanu Rav Sheshes. You know who this is asking this question? It's Rav Sheshes asking this question. It's so hard. How do you understand the whole idea of Lechem Apanim? It's baked in the Beis HaMikdash, it becomes holy, and you can't bake it on Shabbos. So so it should be possible by the time you get to Shabbos.
He has a strong case.
Rav Ashi said back, my kusha, why is it such a problem? Dilma Maibi Bifnim, what does it mean that it's baked inside? The Makom's reason. It's not actually baked in the Beis HaMikdash. It's baked in a place of the people of Beis HaMikdash. Where you have a lot of Kohanim, you have Zrizim, you have passionate people, and they're careful not to do anything wrong. So when it says, Hadar Rav Ashi Barusi, this proposed answer of Rav Ashi, that the bread is not really made holy by the baking, because it's not baked in the Beis HaMikdash, should go out, throw it out. It's not an answer. Because manavshach. Because if you're saying that the baking needs passionate people who are not going to let it become chametz, if for the baking you need it to be done by passionate people, though not done in the Beis HaMikdash, just done by Kohanim next to the Beis HaMikdash, so then the kneading and the preparing of the loaf, also where it could become chametz, should have to be done by passionate people. And if you say that wherever passionate people are working, that's called Beis HaMikdash, so then it should be that's also done in Beis HaMikdash. And if the kneading and the preparing doesn't need passionate people to make sure it's not considered, that doesn't become chametz. So then the baking also shouldn't need to be done by the passionate people who make sure it doesn't become chametz. So it must be that this answer of Rav Ashi belongs outside. It's wrong. It belongs outside. Okay.
So I don't understand, Rabbi. They did the shech and they did the korbanot. They did all of it on Shabbat and Yom Kippur and Beit HaMikdash.
Yes.
All of a sudden, baking is not allowed to be done.
Baking the bread not. No, because the baking is not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is putting the bread on the shulchan. So this is what's called hechsher mitzvah, preparation for a mitzvah. Preparation for a mitzvah won't overrule Shabbos. The mitzvah itself overrules Shabbos. The mitzvah of the korban is the shita.
Okay.
There's a difference.
So what mekadesh et halechem besof? A shulchan?
Yeah, that's what we saw later. Yeah, the shulchan.
But we're unresolved, Rabbi, right? You know what answer, I guess?
What's that?
It's unresolved.
No, the table. I think what is he says. The table makes it holy, not the oven. The table is what makes it holy. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol ma'asein bifnim. Rabbi Yehuda says that all of the preparations, everything was done inside the Beis HaMikdash. Amar Bavo Bar Kahana, whereas Rabbi Shimon says it doesn't have to be done inside; it can be done outside too. So Amar Bavo Bar Kahana, Shnei Mikrecha Darshu. They're all both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon are darshaning the same pasuk. It's a pasuk in Shmuel. The pasuk says, "V'hu derech chol, af ki hayom yikdash b'kli." So David finds the Kohanim when he's running away from Shaul, and it's Erev Shabbos, and they're baking lechem apanim, and David gets to eat it because he's starving, he's in danger, he has bulmus. So the verse describes the lechem apanim, Hu derech chol, af ki hayom yikdash b'kli. So Yehuda Savar, b'chol ashkechinu deka'afulei. David is meeting them on a weekday and a Friday when they're baking. Amalahu, and David is telling them, Derechol kafisu. Are you baking it during the week? Afki ayom yikdash bekli. 1 second, but then today it's going to become holy in a vessel. If Saleh Belina, it's going to be disqualified. So therefore he's saying it should be done on Shabbos. Rabbi Shimon Savar, b'Shabbos ashkechinu dekafu. He met them on Shabbos when they're baking. And he's telling them, Lo derechol b'yisulim avdei. Isn't it during the week that you have to make it? Midi tana mekadesh. Is it during the week that you have to do it? You don't have to do it during the week because Is it the oven that's going to make it holy? Is the oven that's going to make it holy? Shulchan u'demekadesh. This is what Izzy just pointed out. It's the table that makes it holy. And therefore, why are you so nervous that you have to bake it today on Shabbos? Says the Gemara, Mimatzis Amrit, can you say the B'shas Afiyash Kechinu that David met them when they were baking the breads? But the verse says, V'yitin lo ha-kohen kodesh, ki lo hayasham lechem, ki em lechem apanim, ha-musarim elifnei Hashem. The Kohen gave to David the holy bread, because there was nothing but the holy bread. So, so therefore, if it's during the week, they could have baked other things. What is he saying to them when he's saying the way of the week? This is what he's saying to them. Is there no bread other than the bread at lechem apanim? Certainly, once it's going to be removed from the table, the Kohanim are going to be able to eat it. So this which was already removed doesn't have a law of Me'ilah. So it's derech chol. Even this other bread, which is today going to be made holy in the vessel, being put onto the table, Havale you can give to David to eat, to Lechel you can eat it because Mesukanhu, because he is in danger. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, Gemara Pligi. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, they are arguing with traditions. Is it that the oven makes it holy or not? Dekanami, we can also derive that to Ketani because it says Rabbi Shimon Omer LaOlam Aviragi Lo Mer Shtei Lechem VeLechem Apanim Sheres Bazar Sheres Abeis Pagi. You should always be used to say that the Shtei Lechem and the Lechem Apanim are kosher whether in the Azara or outside. So Shema Mina, it should be regular to say that he had a tradition which was telling him this point, and that's why he says LaOlam Aviragi Lo Mer. Okay, we'll continue Bezrat Hashem tomorrow at 35.